Good evening. It's 6 o'clock on Friday, October 28th, 2016. Welcome and thank you for joining us tonight for the English edition of Aura News, where we bring you today's top stories translated into English every weeknight. In an urgent meeting, the Supreme Council of Justice dismissed Gutzim Bochi as the chairman of Girocastro's court and suspended him from being a judge. The Minister of Justice asked for the dismissal after a recorded conversation was publicized on an investigative program showing the judge asking for sexual favors from his client in exchange for making a decision in her favor. The judge's suspension was unanimously approved by the Supreme Council of Justice. The Minister of Justice called the judge's behavior intolerable, saying, "The incident with this judge is grave, embarrassing, and unacceptable. This person can no longer be the chairman of a court. He cannot be a judge. I will ask for his suspension until procedures for his dismissal are completed. I think the Supreme Council of Justice will make the right decision," declared the Minister of Justice. Meanwhile, the prosecution of serious crimes has launched an investigation into the case. After seizing the recorded conversation, the prosecution of serious crimes officers arrived in Girocastro, where they interviewed the woman who accused the judge. It is learned that the woman is under state police protection. The Union of Judges has also reacted to the event, asking the prosecution to discover the truth. Albania should implement the judicial reform and fight crime and corruption as soon as possible. This was the appeal made by the German State Secretary. The German Secretary said that the levels of unemployment and emigration remain a problem for Albania. Albania is currently facing challenges like unemployment and emigration of young people. Measures and important projects should be undertaken to fight these events. In addition, reforms against organized crime and corruption should continue, and especially the judicial reform should be implemented. "We are always ready to support your reforms and EU membership," he said. The German State Secretary urged Albanians not to continue seeking asylum in Germany, but rather to pursue the legal path to go into Germany. "I want to emphasize that all those who are trying to seek asylum in Germany should use legal possibilities. Since January 1st, this has been possible. When Albanian citizens come to seek jobs, this is a great opportunity for all Albanians." The German official made the statement during the ceremony of signing the agreement for the second allotment of the €20 million grant dedicated for interconnection with Macedonia. The Prime Minister sought Germany's intervention in finding a solution for the impasse created with the Kosovo interconnection line. Apart from the interconnection grant with Macedonia, the German delegation also signed an agreement for waste management. The ambassador of Austria commented on the vetting law today, declaring that he hopes the issue will be solved soon after it is sent to the Venice Commission. The Austrian ambassador considers the implementation of the judicial reform to be very important. Albania undertook an important step on July 21st with the adoption of the judicial reform. The implementation of the reform is of the same importance. The Constitutional Court has decided to take the vetting law to the Venice Commission for wisdom. "I hope that the next steps are taken as soon as possible," the ambassador declared, adding that in these conditions, Albania should not take steps backwards. Of course, the realization of the judicial reform in 1998 or in 2008 would have been better, but now we are in 2016, and the most important thing is that Albania continues to take the right steps in this direction, added the ambassador. Mr. Sattler declared that the fight against organized crime and drugs are two main crucial points where all the government stakeholders should have their focus. The fight against organized crime and drugs is part of the steps towards the European Union. Austria will support this process. We hope that this process will continue to progress. The Austrian ambassador was in Shkodra for an anniversary ceremony organized to celebrate the 60th year of re-established relations between Albania and Austria. The The opposition, headed by the Democratic Party, is about to make a final decision concerning popular protests and a boycott of Parliament until the government is removed. The vice chairman of the Democratic Party declared that the Prime Minister is preparing to manipulate the upcoming parliamentary elections, and thus the Democratic Party is using every democratic means to remove him from office. The Democratic Party is making its plan of action clear, starting with popular protests and going finally to the boycott of Parliament. The vice chairman of the Democratic Party considers the removal of the Prime Minister as necessary for the country's development. The Democrats have not yet made any official decision and have not yet determined a fixed agenda of action, but the first popular protest is expected to be held on December 8th, on the Youth Day. The vice chairman of the Democratic Party declared that the government has abandoned the citizens and destroyed the country. And according to him, the popular protests and the opportunity to boycott Parliament are supported not only by the parliamentary group, DP's structures, and their allies, but also by civil society. The OSCE presence in Albania shared its concern over the realization of electoral reform. The OSCE's chief political officer, Carolina Ramos de Costa, says that only a month and a half remains until the official start of preparations. Elections are coming. There is only 1.5 months until the official start of preparations. The mandate of the Ad Hoc Committee on Electoral Reform expires on December 9th. And the electoral reform process has not started yet. There is simply no more time to lose. The OSCE presence in Albania is committed to assist the Assembly in carrying out the electoral reform. But if we want the changes in the law to be properly implemented, we must allow the necessary time ahead of elections. Ambassador Borchardt himself has asked me to urge the Ad Hoc Committee to convene and resume its activity in full force as soon as possible. It is essential that the reform is concluded in due time, prior to elections. For this to become a reality, the committee must prioritize their areas of work so that it can carry out an electoral reform that addresses all OSCE ODIHR recommendations, but also includes all actors in a transparent process, she said. Regarding the funding issue, Mrs. DaCosta declared that the Central Election Commission needs to be legally empowered to properly monitor party finances and electoral campaigns and the financial and human capacities to carry out further verification. The Assembly Speaker, Ilir Meta, received Andre Hunko and Joseph O'Reilly today, who are the co-reporters for the Ombudsman's Monitoring Commission of the European Council. The Assembly Speaker emphasized that the country needs to progress with realizing the electoral reform on time and following the OSCE ODIHR recommendations. According to the Assembly Speaker, all parties should show a more responsible political commitment in order to guarantee standards, legitimacy, and credibility in the upcoming elections. Mr. Meta praised the work of the reporters and their close cooperation with the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe in support of Albania's parliamentary activity, especially in the direction of enhancing transparency and strengthening the institutions. Furthermore, the Assembly Speaker highlighted that harder work is needed in order to implement the judicial reform without delay, and that focus should be placed on creating a consensual and cooperative political climate with the purpose of advancing crucial reforms for Albania's integration into the European Union. That's all for our English edition this evening. Thank you for joining us tonight. Please join us again Monday through Saturday at 6 p.m. for your local news in English. My name is Mari, and on behalf of Aura News, thank you and good night.